Just when farmers thought a Waters of the U.S. rule was in place that they could live with, the Biden administration's EPA proposed going back to a more burdensome version, something that concerns Farm Bureau. American Farm Bureau Federation Vice President Scott VanderWal, who shared Farm Bureau's concerns at the only in-person listening session for WOTUS held in Bismarck, North Dakota, explained more.
It's basically deleting something that we worked very hard to put in place about 3-4 years ago, and it was a common sense rule, the Navigable Waters Protection Rule, that was easy to understand. Farmers and ranchers didn't have to hire lawyers and engineers and people to help them figure out what part of their land was federally regulated. And we're very disappointed, frankly, that the Biden administration has chosen to throw that out and start over and basically go back to pre-15 or the 15 rule, which we didn't like either, which was very overbearing and was very fraught with federal overreach. We really look for is enabling our producers to be able to responsibly take care of the land, which we do. We depend upon the land and the air and the water resources to make our livings. So there are certain regulations that are needed, but over-regulation certainly is not appropriate. And we feel that's what the 15 rule was. And the Navigable Waters Protection Rule was a common sense rule that really fit both ways. Now there are some people that wanted to throw that out because they said there were some harmful environmental effects being allowed by the Navigable Waters Protection Rule. But those were actually projects that were underway with NRCS and some things like that. There are no proven instances that the rule was allowing environmental damage. It's starting to look like the change is going to come actually sooner than we would hope, because they're having these meetings, 8 or 10 of them, something like that. There'll be virtual meetings. This is the only in-person meeting, the way I understand it, which is a great opportunity. But they're talking like they're going to put a proposed rule out sometime this winter, and that's at the same time as these stakeholder meetings are going on. So apparently the decisions are being made before and during the process when they're going to be taking input. And that disturbs us because they need to listen to stakeholders. The prior converted cropland issue is very big to us because that's something that's, wetlands have been converted over the years. The government actually paid for it back in the 50s and 60s. We need that to be recognized as prior converted and not have the government try to take that back and reclassify it as waters of the U.S. Another issue that really concerns us is that prior converted croplands are allowed to be hayed and grazed currently under the Navigable Waters Protection Rule. Now if we go back to pre-15, as I understand it, haying and grazing does not qualify necessarily as a permitted use, or if you do that, you have to take it out and dig it up and put a different crop on it every 5 years to be able to continue to have that prior converted exemption. And so we're going to suggest very strongly that they leave that grasslands, haying and grazing part in there. Well, we've been back and forth so many times, and like I like to say, pun intended, we've been around this pothole several times. And we had the pre-15 rule, then we had the Rapanos decision, then we had the 15 Obama-era rule that we didn't like at all. It was very much a federal overreach. And then the Navigable Waters Protection Rule was put in place, which we really like. We think it was a good compromise. And now here we are going back the other way again. And when I say regulatory whiplash, it's people don't know where we stand. We don't know what the rules are, and you don't know what's coming next.